The 11th of November is known as Remembrance Day in Trinidad and Tobago. Veterans who served in the line of duty in World War I and II were remembered today during the annual Remembrance Day parade and ceremony at Memorial Park in Port of Spain. Each year, soldiers and sailors who served in World War I and II are remembered in the second week of November. The National Day of Remembrance sees members of the various national security forces honoring those who lost their lives at the nation's Memorial Park in Port of Spain. Members of the public remember the sacrifice of the soldiers and sailors by wearing a poppy. For Remembrance Day, the poppy flower is used as a symbol to remember those soldiers who died during war. Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, President Pauline Weeks, was the first to lay her wreath at the memorial cenotaph. The cenotaph is a monument to the war veterans who unselfishly fought for Trinidad and Tobago. Wreaths are also laid at the base of the cenotaph for the solemn occasion by the Prime Minister, the Minister of National Security, and other dignitaries. At the end of the Remembrance Day celebrations, a beautiful display of flowers is left behind. Retired Lance Corporal TIRADO is one of 7 surviving veterans who served during World War II. She was stationed at the St. James Barracks. Her daughter BERNADETTE TIRADO said her mother takes great pride in knowing that she was able to serve her country.
She would tell us how many people she used to work with and how they have been so nice to her and helpful too, and that she learned a lot from them. And she always encourages people to join the army through that.
She said the National Day of Remembrance is an important part of TNT's history.
There are certain children, certain individuals who don't have a clue as to what it is to be in the army too.
Remembrance Day is observed on November 11th to recall the end of hostilities of World War I on that date in 1918. Port of Spain Mayor Joel Martinez said he felt tremendously proud that the cenotaph was restored just in time for Remembrance Day commemorations at the Memorial Park. The cenotaph, which was erected in 1924, was not designed to be painted. The Portland stone was to be left in its natural state, as it is done in all other Commonwealth countries. The mayor said the restoration work was done in 2 phases.
Anthony Saluma, who had done working in restoration work in England when he spent 10 years there, and he was the one who actually brought it to my attention. He said, "Mayor, do you know that below this white paint there is something called a yellow Portland stone, which is the original stone that the cenotaph arrived in. And the statues that are actually bronze, and the flooring that we are standing on is actually granite." It took a lot of elbow grease, let's put it that way, because he had to use chemicals that were free to the ecosystem and our environment, and not.
He said the restoration could not have happened at a better time, as this year marks 100 years since the end of World War I.
Today as Remembrance Day, when you look at all the splendor that took place today, you could only be a proud Trinidadian or Trinidadian and Tobagonian. And when you look around and you see the armed forces, you see our president, our prime minister, our dignitaries, all of the diplomatic corps here, I was very proud, and I've gotten tremendous amount of reviews indicating how beautiful it is. So I was proud to be the mayor of Port of Spain when this occurred.
Over in Tobago, there were 2 surviving war veterans. They are Mrs. Lucille Cook and Mr. Emanuel Legall. Mr. Legall took the time to speak with the media on several issues, including the state of crime in the country. He said parents are to take the blame for what is happening today.
Out of control. Because, I mean, darling, these crime parents, most of the parents responsible for these little boys' stupidness. I'm telling you, most of the parents responsible for this thing that these young boys are going to be 16 and 17 years old. Them boys should be going to school still, learning something. But we're on the street. What happened to the parents? They have no guidance at all. And to me, parents, people in Trinidad does encourage their children to do stupidness.
He said these young men need to be disciplined. Remembrance Day in Tobago is marked by a ceremony at King James Park in Scarborough, where a war memorial stands. The commemoration is attended by government officials and other dignitaries, ex-servicemen and women, and members of local armed and unarmed forces. Wreaths of poppies are laid on the memorial, and at 11 a.m., 2 minutes of silence are observed. The half-full toll of the bell follows, marking the solemnity of the occasion. The first Remembrance Day observance was held in Tobago in 1960, the very year the Tobago branch of the Commonwealth Ex-Services League was formed. The British High Commissioner to Trinidad and Tobago, Tim Stew, laid wreaths at the Port of Spain Military Cemetery and at the Cenotaph at Memorial Park. This year marks the centenary of the end of the First World War. The armistice, agreed on November 11, 1918, signaled the end of the First World War and was an agreement to engage in peace discussions. The Treaty of Versailles, signed a little over 6 months later, was the official peace treaty between all parties. 100 years later, Mr. Stew had this message to give.
Today, almost every one of us, whatever our racial, ethnic, national or religious roots, is connected in some way to the First World War, because that war was global. Its impact was felt across all regions, including this country, Trinidad and Tobago. So, as we reflect on the lives of the over 9 million killed during that conflict, it's right that we take a moment's silence on Remembrance Sunday to reflect and to thank those men and women for their heroism and their sacrifice.